Hi, my name is Paul and I'm an alcoholic. It's good to be here and it's good to be sober, and I want to thank the committee for giving me the opportunity to come down this morning here and do service. It's a great honour and a great privilege, and to reiterate what Roger's just saying, we had a wonderful time, a great host, and we had lunch together yesterday, and that's the thing about Alcoholics Anonymous. Met Eamon for the first time yesterday, and the wonderful thing about Alcoholics Anonymous, it's one of the few places in the world that you can walk into a room full of strangers and start reminiscing, you know? We mightn't actually drink together, but we definitely know where we're coming from, you know? And I want to thank the committee for giving me the opportunity, and it's been a lot of speakers here, a lot of AA, so hopefully by the time I'm finished, you'll have had enough, you know? And in fact, Popeye said to me, "Can you clear the room?" I says, "Nobody can do it better than me," you know? And, doing this thing, you got to watch, gets to maybe go to your head. But Alcoholics Anonymous is a great way of keeping you humble. I was at a convention, and a guy came up to me before the meeting, and he says, "Is your name Paul?" I says, "Yeah." He says, "PaulMcQ?" I said, "Yeah, PaulMcQ." He goes, "I just want to let you know that you saved my life." So right away, my ego jumped up to attention, and I said to the guy, "Go right ahead, tell me all about it. Don't leave anything out, you know? Take your time so you won't miss anything, you know?" He says, "Yeah, I was driving in the car on a long trip, and my wife and my mother-in-law were in the back of the car, and they were arguing and bickering." He said, "It was driving me crazy." He said, "I always keep CDs in the glove box. I reached in, grabbed the first CD I got my hand on, I stuck it in, and it was you speaking." So I'm thinking to myself, he's going to say, "Paul, when your melodic voice started to come out of that, it felt like the car was enveloped in a sense of peace and serenity. It felt like the wheels weren't even touching the road. In fact, it felt like a dove landed on the car and said, 'This is Paul, who I am well pleased with.'" But what he actually said, he said, "I put the CD in, and less than 5 minutes later, I turned around, and my wife and mother-in-law were fast asleep in the back of the car. Thank you very much," you know? And I'm like, you're welcome, you know? And I know there's a lot of newcomers here. I was at the countdown last night. Perhaps you got a kick out of this. I always like to tell this joke. There's a guy driving to work, and he's rushing, and a cop pulls him over for speeding. And the cop looks down, and on the passenger seat, there's a huge bag of knives and swords and bayonets. The cop says, "What's this?" The guy says, "Don't panic." He said, "I have a cabaret act. I'm a juggler, and these are the tools of my trade." The cop says, "That must be some act. I'd love to see that." He says, "I'll tell you what, give me a quick demonstration. I'll let you go with a warning." So the guy gets out of the car, and he starts juggling these knives and bayonets and swords. And just at this moment in time, there's an AA meeting just finishing, and the old-timer's talking to a sponsee, and he says, "Aren't you glad you stopped drinking? Look at the sobriety tests they're giving these days, you know?" So if you're new to Alcoholics Anonymous, I want to welcome you to the greatest singular event in my life. Coming in the meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, everything else is secondary and tertiary. Coming to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, I said, the greatest singular event in my life. I'm not here to sell Alcoholics Anonymous this morning. It sells itself. It's a program of attraction, not promotion. But what I will tell you, you cannot get where I am this morning from where I came from without AA. It's an impossible journey. And why do I continue to come here? I know how the movie goes, but I wouldn't miss it. To see somebody else walking in here on the worst day of their life and be given the grace not to drink. And it's so much more than grace. It's mercy. And the definition of mercy that I like the best is entering into the chaos of another person's life. And in August of 1992, those people in my life, and there wasn't many, was going that way. The only people coming this way was Alcoholics Anonymous. And they carried this message. My message mightn't even keep me sober. They carried this message. And what is the message that we've seen here this weekend? When complete defeat through alcohol, step one. I got a body that won't let me drink, and a mind that won't let me stop. One drink is the thirst I can't quench. When I control my drinking, I don't enjoy it. And when I enjoy my drinking, I can't control it. I've been here with your help since August of 1992. But I know this morning, one drink, destination unknown. When complete defeat through alcohol meets what I've seen here this weekend, hope in human form, and the 12th step of Alcoholics Anonymous. People get people sober. God works through people, and the spiritual conduit that he uses to spread his love and grace is the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. So you people took me from a place of powerlessness and unmanageability, not to a place where I have power, that would be ego, but a place where I have access to power. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, an unlimited supply. You took me in the problem, step one, through that process to where I am today. Free. Free from the one guy I could never get free from. Living in the one place I could never live, which is right here, right now. I know it may have come as a shock to some people in this room this morning, but I'm not from the neighborhood originally, you know. It's about 30 years now since I left my native Cuba, and I grew up in Northern Ireland, just outside of Belfast, you know, and the sort of neighbourhood I came from, if you didn't drink, you moved, you know, and then where I'm living now, I live up in Rockaway Beach. It's funny how alcoholics are. We always, you know, find where we want to be, you know, and I don't know if you know Rockaway Beach, but the legal age to drink is 4'11", you know, and so I don't know why I became an alcoholic. I used to get a lot of mental gymnastics when I first came here. Why did I become an alcoholic? Where did I become an alcoholic? When did I become an alcoholic? You know the old alcoholic conundrum. What came first, the chicken or the keg? You know, and a lot of guys that got drunk trying to figure that one out. Today, this morning, right here, right now, everything I need to know I found out in AA. My name is Paul, and I'm an alcoholic. That tells me who I am, what I am, where I am, and what I need to be doing. And if I know that, I'm all right. And when I'm okay, everything around me is okay too, even if it's not. So you people took me from that place of pain and darkness to a life I didn't know existed, you know. And maybe you're sitting out there this morning. Maybe you're one of the people that stood up last night counting days. And you're new to this. They said, Paul, I don't know if you can see my face. I'm not laughing. I backed myself into a corner I can't get out of. You don't know where I'm at this morning, and perhaps I don't know you personally. But I will tell you this. You hear that metaphor, you go 10 miles into the forest, you got to go 10 miles out. I don't believe that in AA. I don't care how deep and how dark and how painful the forest you're in seems. AA tells me, and I will tell you, you're just 12 steps away from a new life. Just 12 steps away from a brand new life in Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous is one of the few places where I got the ability to live 2 lives in one lifetime. Hear people saying AA, oh, I came to AA and I got my life back. I don't want my life back, it sucked. I had it for 30 years, I could do nothing with it. Are there people in my life from the old drinking days? Absolutely. Family, close friends, but things are different today. My world today, I don't know about tomorrow, but today, because of your help in this program, my world is built on concrete. And the world which it will out there, because there's days of spiritual warfare. The day it will huff and it will puff. But like I used to read that story to my little girl. If I stay close to my little house will not blow down. And you might be sitting out there saying, Paul, these steps and traditions and promises and how it works. Right here. Unity, service, and recovery. I believe from your very first meeting, you can put all 3 parts of that triangle into your life. From your very first meeting. Unity. We do together what I can't do alone. Many meetings make it easy, few make it hard, none make it impossible. I need you and you need me. Like a dear friend of mine says, without you, there will be no me. Service. A guy that used to speak that passed away used to say, the highest pay grade in Alcoholics Anonymous is servant. Why? Because by the very nature of this disease, I am shackled to self. I can't see you because there's so much of me in the way. I know you're out there, but I'm so into me. They told me you put away one more chair than the one you sat on tonight. You're doing service in Alcoholics Anonymous. Recovery, maybe those 12 steps do seem like a foreign concept. But we have slogans in AA. They were like the banisters to the steps. Easy does it. Live and let live. One day at a time. So in your very first meeting, if you're new, you can put all 3 parts of that triangle into your life. But I will tell you a different story from personal experience, not in the theoretical. You can stay dry on 2 parts of that triangle. I've done it. You can even stay dry on 1 part of that triangle. I've done that too. But like I said, I want to get free from the one guy I could never get free from. I got to put all 3 parts into my life, and I got to do it every day. I was in Vegas one time, and I don't gamble, but I like to watch, and maybe you see those guys on TV playing high-stakes Texas Hold'em, and the guy stood up at Caesar's Palace, and he pushed all his chips on the table, and he says, I'm all in. And I thought to myself, what a great metaphor for Alcoholics Anonymous. I got to be all in, and I got to be all in every day, because I'll tell you something I found out the hard way. The disease is all in, and it's all in every day. This idea that my disease is in the parking lot doing, no, my disease is right here. It's been at every meeting I've been at and wants to steer me away from Alcoholics Anonymous. But if I stay here in the moment, there's a friend of mine drank after a long period in AA. He says, you know how you get drunk in AA? You give those steps back 1 step at a time. Take your will back in 3. Become insane in 2. So insane you tell yourself you're not an alcoholic and get drunk in the first step. But today, I don't know about tomorrow, today, people say, oh, you're just an arm's length away from a drink. Today, with your help in this program, I'm 12 steps away from a drink. And that's a long, long way from when I first walked in here. But don't get me wrong, they're not 12 steps up to anything. They're 12 steps down to humility. And the funny thing about leaving AA, when you're leaving AA, it's not like backing up a truck where you hear beep, beep, beep. You don't even realize you're leaving. This disease, so cunning, so baffling, so powerful, it just wants to move you away one day at a time. It's almost a drift, almost a glacial drift, and you don't see it. But if I come here, and I've seen it this weekend, talking these principles, guys like Roger, sober a long time, still active in Alcoholics Anonymous, working with new guys. The only way that I coast in AA is downhill. So I was brought up, thank God, by guys in AA that were in AA a long time and they were still helping alcoholics, and I hope I never forget that. The most selfish thing I could do, and I can be a selfish guy, would be to take all the gifts I've gotten here, to put them in my back pocket, and head out the side door. There was somebody at the door for me, I must be at the door for somebody else. Now, why I'm an alcoholic? I love AA because Ernest Hemingway says that all writers tell the same story. I think all alcoholics tell the same story. Gender, color, creed, it matters not. When you say you're an alcoholic, I know enough. As I said, I know you experience terror, frustration, bewilderment, and despair. I know you drank against your own will, for goodness sake. I know that friends and family and loved ones plead with you not to drink. Thank God the program of AA is written by alcoholics for alcoholics. When I think of where I was in August of 1992, and it says in our book, quicksand stretched all in all directions, and to be brought here this morning, and the freedom I've gotten because of AA. I grew up in Northern Ireland during the Troubles. We talked about freedom. We marched in the streets for freedom. We sat in pubs singing about freedom. I wouldn't have known freedom if it jumped up here next to me. I'm free this morning. It mightn't seem much to somebody who's a non-alcoholic, but to get in a car in New York and drive to here is a freedom I didn't have in August of 1992. Going from here to the car park, is there enough booze to get me there? Is there enough when I get there? Is there enough to get me back? And when you live your life under those parameters as we do, your life gets smaller and smaller with less people in it. Where I ended up sitting, drinking around the clock against my own will, for goodness sake. So if you're new here this morning, you know what AA has given me that I never had before? It gave me something between me and the first drink. If you're new this morning, get something between you and the first drink. Before I came to AA, the thought of a drink would become the obsession, and I'd find myself drinking and I'd no way of stopping the clock. Because of your help in this program, that's not the case today. Tomorrow's none of my business. As I said there, I love AA, all the different people here. James Joyce has got a great line from one of his books. He's talking about Dublin. But it's so indicative of AA. He says, here comes everybody. Look around, we're all here. You know, and I don't know why. I have no idea why. I used to wonder why. I have no idea why I became an alcoholic, and I don't care today. I just accept the fact that I am an alcoholic. And I'll tell you this, if I was to speculate, there's two turning points in my life that are so clear, like the line on a road. The first one was taking a drink of booze, and the second one was walking in a meeting of AA. And both times I realized I was looking for the same thing. Carl Jung, that was a great friend of AA, said that alcoholism can be characterized as a low-grade spiritual thirst. I was looking for something. For whatever reason, I don't know. I had that hole in my soul as a kid, and I tried to fill it with booze, people, places, things. And I had some symbolic victories, but nothing of any permanence. It was a God-shaped hole, and it would take the 12 steps of AA to fill that. So my life, I mean, you've heard the different metaphors. You know, I was a sort of a kid growing up, had that stone in the shoe feeling. When I was over there, I wanted to be over here. When I was upstairs, I wanted to be downstairs. The shine would wear off things very quickly. Oh, this is it. Nah, that's not it. Oh, no, this is it. You know, always looking for an outside fix, but what's really an inside job. And then I took drink. I took that drink of alcohol. You heard the different metaphors. The one that I can identify with. My life went from black and white to color with one drink. Most people drink because alcohol does to them. I was in the bar business for years. Our book talks about it. A sense of conviviality, companionship, fired imagination. They drink because what alcohol does to them, a social lubricant. I drink because what alcohol does for me. Alcohol does something for me that it doesn't do for the normal or even the heavy drinker. Perhaps you can identify when alcohol does for me what it does for me. I'm coming back for more. I don't care what the consequences are. And if you'd have told me, I love that Charles Dickens book, The Christmas Carol, and they got the ghost of the past and the ghost of the present and the ghost of the future. When I was taking that first drink as a 14 or 15-year-old kid, if the alcoholic of my future, if the ghost of my future had tapped me in the shoulder and said, I want to show you something. Look in that window. You see that guy drinking around the clock against his own will? You see that guy that's pushed away everybody who mattered in his life? You see that guy who's got quicksand stretched all around him? That's you in 15 years. I'd have said, you're out of your mind. You're thinking of somebody else. But that's exactly what happened. I'm not a violent man. If another man did to me what drink did to me, I'm not a violent man. I only ever had one bar fight, and that was a draw. Although most people watching said that she won, you know. But they talk about this herbaceous creditor. And the merchant of Venice, Shylock wanted just, oh, what did he want? 1 pound of flesh, not this disease. It'll take your job, your car, your partner, the shirt off your back. But what it really wants is me 6 feet under. There's a lot of terminal diseases out there. I'm not familiar with those, but I'm familiar with this one. This disease will kill me stone dead, with or without drinking my body. I don't need booze in my body to burn my life to the ground. I almost done it in AA because I wouldn't accept these spiritual principles. But you couldn't have told me that. We're talking the other day, a promising soccer career out the window. I would have told you for years that I give that up. I didn't give that up. Booze took that from me. And I look now, the writing was on the wall. I mean, I started drinking 14 or 15. Within 3 months, I'm getting my stomach pumped out on a school night. My parents didn't know what to do with me. The troubles were bad at that time. They're thinking he'll settle down, he'll grow out of it. But it got worse. And that's this disease that gets progressively worse. But the good news for the people here this morning that are new, sobriety is progressive as well. And as far down as you go with drink, you can come back up in AA. And I'm not going to stand up here like some snake oil salesman and promise you the moon and the stars. There's things I lost through drink, and they're not coming back. There's things you might have lost through drink, they're not coming back either. But thank God for this program. Who among us could live with the guilt and the shame and remorse of our drinking if it wasn't for the 12 steps to alleviate that? I found the hard way. We don't do the steps because they're nice. We do them because they're necessary for recovery. If I want to get physically and mentally and spiritually and emotionally rehabilitated, I had to work this program. I wasn't a sociopath. I knew the bridges I burned, the damage I did. It's ironic that I'm speaking here this morning. My father died 1 year ago today. Now, we weren't the Waltons, but because of this program, when I visited him that last time in Ireland, that nursing home, I was okay with him, and he was okay with me. I got back in the car. It was the last time I saw him. I wasn't thinking, dragging some stuff around. We were free. I didn't realize that when I sat in that nursing. I didn't realize when a sponsor dragged me through those steps 23 years earlier, kicking and screaming. I didn't realize the significance of doing a step 9. But that morning when I sat in that nursing home with my father for the last time, I understood what they're saying around here. And that's the way sobriety is. Sobriety is a lot like life. It's lived forward but understood backwards. And a lot of this stuff's rear view mirror, and you see why you walked this journey, and you see why things had to happen. And what I thought were random events happening for no reason, like was said last night by Tim, in actual fact, looking back with 26 years of sobriety, I can see rather than being these isolated things happening, it's a seamless spiritual tapestry with not a stitch out of place and everything happening just the way it had to happen for me to stand here this morning with these people. But you don't get that the first week in AA, but please stay here. We throw the word miracle around a lot in AA. For the people that are new, there's a miracle here with your name on it. Nobody can take it for you, and nobody can take it from you. Stay here and get the life you're meant to have before drink took you down a different road. George Eliot, the writer, says, we talk about the stuff in AA, the car crashes and the this and the that. You know the saddest aspect of alcoholism? The unlived life. Where you're just drifting through life drunk, don't know where you're going, why you went there, like just flotsam and jetsam, just drifting through life with no purpose, no meaning. Because of Alcoholics Anonymous, there's a meaning to my life this morning. There's a purpose, there's a rhythm. As I said, everything I need to know, I know right here and right now. So please stay here and get that miracle that you're promised here. But you couldn't have told me that as a kid starting out. Before I'm out of my teens, I'm a daily drinker. Before I'm out of my teens, I'm taking morning drink. And it got worse, and it got worse, and it got worse. My life's falling apart in Northern Ireland, but I don't want to look in. I'm a finger pointer. I'm into the blame game. It's Northern Ireland. I'm a working class Catholic from the wrong side of the tracks. Can't get a break. Had a big chip on my shoulder. In fact, when I got to AA, a guy says to me, you know something, you're a well-balanced guy. And I thought, finally, somebody knows what's going on around here, you know? See, you got a chip on both shoulders, you know? Hated everything, hated everybody, could always find a needle in the haystack. So I'm blaming Northern Ireland, can't get a break. Typical grandstander. I come home to my father one day, I said, Dad, sit down. He's probably getting a laugh thinking about this now. I said, Dad, sit down, I got some bad news for you. He says, what is it? I said, I'm going to America, and don't try and talk me out of it. He says, talk you out of it? I'll help you pack when you're leaving, you know? On you go, Columbus. Let me give you some fatherly advice. Turn left at Greenland, you know? I know there's some new people here, so I always like to tell this joke, an old joke in AA. Columbus was actually an alcoholic. Little known fact. Because when you think about it, when he set off on his journey, he didn't know where he was going. When he got there, he didn't know where he was. When he got back, he didn't know where he had been. And he got a woman to pay for the trip, not once but twice, you know. So, you know he must have been an alcoholic, you know. So I jumped on a plane, arrived in New York, but the first thing I packed out of the case was me and my alcoholism. Nothing changes. In fact, it got worse, because now there was nobody tugging my collar saying, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, what are you doing with a drink in your hand? And I could drink the way I always wanted to drink, which was like an animal. Like I was talking there before the meeting, I got a job as a bartender. I use the word bar in the loosest possible context. I worked in that, every neighborhood's got that one bar. I worked in the one on Rockaway Beach. It was a sort of a bar you got thrown into rather than out of, you know. This bar had it all: alcoholics, drug addicts, degenerate gamblers. And that was just the staff. That wasn't even the customers, you know. I'll give you a mental picture. If you want to see a full set of teeth in this bar, you needed 32 customers, you know what I'm saying? This is sort of a high-end joint we're talking about, you know? Every now and again, a glamour girl would step in there with 3 teeth and upset the whole ecosystem, you know? Hey, baby, where have you been, you know? And forget about ladies' night. Most of the women that come in that bar look like they did their makeup on a trampoline, you know? It's over here, back here. But water finds its own level, and so do alcoholics. Now I fit it in like a glove. I used to work from 6 at night to 4 in the morning. I worked in a bar where I could literally walk behind the bar at 6 o'clock at night and pour myself a drink and put it in the rack and drink to 4 o'clock in the morning. At the end of my drink, and I couldn't even get there. Fears and phobias and hang-ups. That herbaceous critter, yeah, give me the wings to fly, and then it took away the sky. I'm going to go through the whole ins and outs of it. I've experienced every form of alcoholism. I was a weekend drinker as a kid, a daily drinker, a morning drinker, binge drinking. But the drinking that put my lights out, 27 to 30, I became a periodic alcoholic. You know the equation. The drunks would get longer and the period between them would get shorter. And it was insanity. I tried, and the ironic thing of this disease, the worst years of my drinking, I hope they were, 27 to 30, were after I made a firm conviction not to drink anymore. See, I almost went to the grave thinking I had a drinking problem. For there are people that are new here this morning, a drinking problem is solved by not drinking. And our book talks about that also. A medical reason, a romantic reason, a change of environment, and those people can stop or even moderate. They might even need a detox. Those are heavy drinkers. But what about the real alcoholic? Not drinking. I know why I drank. I look back on it. For a long period of my life, alcohol was a suitable treatment for the disease called alcoholism. It worked for quite a long time. It filled the holes, took off the rough edges, made me be everything I thought you wanted me to be. And for a chronic people pleaser with low self-esteem, it was a magic elixir. But looking back on it, it was a Faustian bargain. I made a deal with the devil. John Barleycorn could be aptly called the devil himself. And when I hit 27, I'm now into that periodic drinking. And I would get a period 2 or 3 weeks, and then I loved nothing more. Here was a guy who used to love drinking in bars, give him a drink, give him a drink. At the end of my drinking, I loved nothing more than to lock myself in the apartment and use the Godfather parlance, just go to the mattresses and just drink and drink. The only time I'd leave the apartment would to get more drink. And if I was awake, I was drinking. And then I'd have to hit a hospital or detox myself. And I'll tell you, and here's the thing that I realize today because of your help, that I have alcoholism, not a drinking problem. If my problem's just drinking, I need the first half of the first step and I'll live happily ever after. And there's people that do that. I'm not one of them. I have alcoholism. And that's a horse of a different color. It's physical, yes, but it's mental and spiritual and wrapped up in a body full of sick, childish emotions. Bill Wilson says not drinking is a start, but just a brief start. I need the other 11 and a half steps to help me do what I can't do drunk or sober, and that's live out there in God's world under His conditions rather than my demands. I'll give you one vignette that just sums this up for me. I was on a bad drunk. I've been drinking for about a week. I wouldn't eat when I drank. I just, said there, just drink. I ran out of booze. It's the middle of the night, but I'm a bartender in Rockaway Beach. I always knew where to get drink. I go to one of the bars, knocked the side door. The guy was cleaning the place. He knew me, brought me in. I'm having a few drinks to settle my nerves, and I collapsed in the bar in an alcoholic seizure. I had alcoholic seizures before. I woke up in the local hospital in a restraining sheet. I'd been in a restraining sheet before, and they gave me some Librium to get me down off the ceiling. And there was a woman who was close to me at that time in my life, in that on-again, off-again relationship, and I took her hand. And I wasn't trying to be cinematic. I took her hand and I said, I don't know why I can't drink, but it's obvious I can't drink, and I will never, ever drink again. If you got a contract, I would have signed it with my own blood. There's a friend of mine says, Paul, if they'd have put you in a lie detector machine, you would have passed with flying colours. Because I meant that, not at an intellectual level, at a visceral level. It's over. I'm done. I'm finished. But I left that hospital. I didn't know what the problem really was, step 1. I didn't know what the solution was, step 12, or how to go between one and the other. I didn't have unity, you people. I wasn't in service. I didn't have any recovery. One more time, it was me against the first drink. And I'll tell you, up until this moment in time this morning, I have never beaten an obsession to drink. I've gotten into the ring many times. It's like getting in the ring with a heavyweight champion. A child could say, don't get in the ring. But don't get in the ring means don't take a drink. And what do? I get back in the ring, perhaps you can identify. And I tell myself the epitaph of the alcoholic. It'll be different this time. I'll watch it. It was him. It was her. It was this. It was that. Whatever. And I take the first drink, and I'm off on the well-known spree that Dr. Silkworth talks about in our book. And this didn't happen once or twice. This happened so many times ad infinitum. And that woman said to me, what non-alcoholics say, I got to get away from you before I end up in the nut house. And I say what alcoholics say, I don't need you. I don't need anybody. I would like to tell you that I came into AA a week later. I drank for 3 more years after that. Bottoms to bottoms. I think of sometimes as poignant memories come. My mother's still alive. I just visited her last week in Ireland. She's 75, looks 65, in a nursing home with 90-year-olds with dementia. But I was able to spend time with her. I think of her. I said my father passed away a year ago today. I was able to bring them out here in sobriety, take them on vacations, making amends. I think of my mother. I used to be in New York, and I'd go off the grid for months at a time. And she'd be asking people in Northern Ireland from the neighbourhood who had relatives in New York, would you ask your son if he has seen my son? Just tell him to call home. Just let us know he's all right. I remember one time, here's a guy going to make it big in New York. I'm living in the South Bronx, in a basement, on a mattress, with a phone that just takes incoming calls. I had a huge abscess in my mouth. It's Christmas Eve. I gathered up the money twice to go to the dentist, drank it both times. I lay down Christmas Eve afternoon, woke up, mattress covered in blood, and the phone rang. My mother tracked me down through a bartender on 2nd Avenue that she knew, who was from near our hometown, and she says, Paul, I went to there's a 5-hour time difference between the East Coast and Ireland. They're 5 hours ahead. And she says, Paul, I went to midnight mass tonight, and I prayed for you. And I'm thinking to myself, don't pray for me. I'm beyond the beyond. I ain't coming back. I couldn't see a way from there to here. You people could. I didn't have that vision. And I'd like to tell you, I walked out of the apartment and had some Frank Capra, it's a wonderful life moment, but I didn't. I drank on and I drank on. But thankfully, I got to Alcoholics Anonymous. I want to tell you something you might know. I bartended the last 5 years drinking, and I bartended the first 12 years in AA. Most alcoholics died drunk. They don't even hear of AA. I don't know why. And this is not false humility, I seen better men and women than me. better principles, better morals, people that would give you the shirt off your back, stand before me in that bar and drink themselves to death and never darken the door of an AA meeting. And why am I here this morning? I don't know. But I know I got to help somebody else. I used to say, oh, we're the chosen ones. And there's a guy, Jimmy L. from Brooklyn, who's passed away, tapped me on the shoulder one day and he says, Paul, does that mean the guy or girl in the Barry this morning is unchosen? God's grace is like the rain. It falls on everybody. I don't know why when that drop of rain fell on my face in August of 1992, I got the A and the guy down the road didn't. I don't know. But I know what I got to do here to try to help another alcoholic. I'm here as the sole recipient of an old-fashioned 12-step call. I'm in the apartment, door locked. A note come under the door. Say what I've been hearing since I was 15. You're a nice guy, but you drink too much. Man's telephone number. I picked up the phone, which is against my personality completely. Irish, stoic, don't tell nobody nothing. Have another drink and it'll be all right. That was my code of conduct. I called this gentleman who was an AA since 1961 from the old South Bronx group. And they had a mantra, we don't give up on anybody. He knew Bill Wilson personally. And he wasn't off on some ivory tower reminiscing. How AA is not the way it used to be. He was still helping alcoholics. And him and another man came to my house that day. Or if you want to call it the house. I was sitting drinking. And they, like what says the man in the bed, they talked about them, but I found out about me. And I was too sick to go to a meeting that day, but about 70 hours later, I was well enough to get put in a car and brought to my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. As I said, the greatest singular event in my life. I'm so glad there wasn't a guy standing with a clipboard saying, check the box for what you want. I would have checked the box for not drinking and would have been delighted. But I got that, but I got so much more besides. I got me back, and I got you back, and I got him back, and I'd lost a whole lot. Someone met me after my first meeting, and they'd heard it all before, like it says in our book, the oaths, proclamations. And I said, I found something. I didn't know what it was, but I knew there was something here. I couldn't have told you in August of 1992 what it was, but this morning I can tell you what it was. It was hope. It was hope in human form. And I haven't had a drink from that day to this day. Now, how is that? It's not because of me. No. The minute I think I'm staying sober, I'm getting ready to get drunk. It's because of you people. Doing it together. Walking this road together. Trudging that road of happy destiny. Thank God. Staying close to people in the good times and the not so good times. I'm not going to stand up here if you're new and tell you, oh, you come into AA in your life. No. That early sobriety especially, it's like a roller coaster. It goes up and it goes down. Just don't get off. Stay on. Stay on. And I think of the people that helped me. I found the hard way in AA. If you're going through something alone in AA, it's because you want to. There's not one thing in this world that I have to go through alone in AA. And if you walk this journey long enough, and I've been fortunate to walk on a few 24s, and you walk that road of happy destiny, and you look off to the left or the right, and you will see the carcasses of the lone wolves of AA. They're going alone. This disease loves me saying things like, I got this. Or you know, against guys in trouble like me, maybe sober a while, spiritual pride. How can I share this? I'm sober X amount of years. Alcoholics Anonymous is a reality check on how my life is going today. Not how I think it should go or I want to go. How's the rubber meeting the road today in my life? Somebody's got to be in my life. I need somebody in my life that's not as emotionally attached to my life as I am. Who can see the wood for the trees. My vision is always myopic. I need somebody who can stand back and see the whole picture. There's an old saying in AA, when you're inside the jar, you can't read the label. I need somebody standing outside the jar who said, Paul, it may appear that way, but that's not what's happening. And I've been through, as I said, those two men brought me to my first meeting of AA. And I'd like to stand up here and tell you that I took the ball and scored a touchdown. But I came in here, our book talks about Let go absolutely of all your old ideas. And I brought old ideas in here. Barroom mentality. It might have worked well at some bar at 4 o'clock in the morning under the L in New York, but it wasn't working too far in here. I had to learn to march to the beat of a different drum. I'm here to tell you, you can fool them at the coffee pot at 7:30 at night. I've done it. How's it going, Paul? Oh, it's going great. You know, when untreated alcoholism visits me, 2 o'clock in the morning. Could-haves, should-haves, would-haves, guilt, shame, remorse, another sleepless night in sobriety. I come into A, as I said there, the 3 parts of the triangle. Unity, I was going to plenty of meetings. Service, I started making more coffee than Juan Valdez. You kidding me, service? But I wouldn't do door number 3, recovery. Irish stoic, don't tell nobody nothing. I was building these walls in sobriety. I was building them high and I'm building them deep. You're not getting in, but guess what? I'm not getting out. Robert Frost, the poet, says a wall's a good thing. Maybe if you're a New England farmer, but not if you're an alcoholic of my variety. Somebody has to be let in. As I said there, I'm carrying all these resentments around, sitting in AA, 2.5 years off drink, going to carrying all these resentments. And think about these resentments. They've no IQ. We were burnt out of our house during the Troubles by the opposing paramilitaries. I was carrying that and other resentments around, but these resentments have no IQ. They don't say, Paul, this happened 3,000 miles away 25 years ago. I'm experiencing them like they're happening right now, over and over. And all the spiritual toxicity that's released in your body when you're living that way. Sobriety is to be enjoyed, not endured. And that's what I was doing. I came into Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't owe very much money. Within 2.5 years, I'm thousands upon thousands of dollars in debt. And I know why today. I was still trying to fill the hole in my soul. There's not enough stuff out there to fill this hole. A bad jacket, feel good for a half an hour, always end up back in the same equation. As a friend of mine says, me on me. Can't get me off of me. Shackled to self. Charge a trip to the Caribbean, feel good for a week. Always end up the man in the glass. Don't like him. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week is a long time to be with somebody you don't like. And I don't like who I am. And a guy come to me in a meeting one night, and I had a sponsor but a name only. A guy come to me in a meeting one night and says, Paul, can I talk to you? I said, sure. You're dying. And you're dying in AA. You're keeping by your arm's length with your one-liners and your glib phrases, but you're dying. You're like a starving man at a spiritual banquet. There's all this food on offer, and you're over here living on bread and water. Guy had my number. I still wasn't convinced. The next day, this is 2.5 years off drink. The next day, I'm driving out of the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel onto the Gowanus Expressway, 6 lanes, and a guy cut me off. Oh, really? Rush hour traffic. Caught up with them, jam them against the guardrail. Now I'm blocking 3 lanes of traffic. Rush hour. I got out of the car. I don't care who's behind the wheel of the other car. It could have been Tony Soprano. I don't care. I'm out of my mind. I go to the car. There's an Asian man sitting behind the wheel shaking. His wife's crying in the passenger seat, and his 3 kids are crying in the back of the car. This is 2.5 years off drink. I was so disgusted with myself. I apologized profusely. He didn't put the window down. I don't blame him either. And I got back in my own car and I hit my head off the steering wheel. I said, I'm crazier off drink than I was on it. And in some respects, I was right. I've been the jumping off place twice in my life. Once with drink and once with no drink and no program. Different type of pain, but pain nonetheless. I left that scene, drove to my sponsor's house in name only. And he was sober a long time. You can bring a horse to water, you can make him thirsty, but sooner or later he's the one that has to drink. And I wasn't willing to accept. You know where I got in trouble? I wasn't willing to accept that there was more wrong with me than alcohol. And it was going to take more than that drinking alcohol to fix me. I didn't understand those steps. I looked at those steps from a merely 2-dimensional point of view. Yeah, I'm powerless. I need to get God and this and that. Yeah. I didn't realize that I looked at them as information. I didn't realize that the steps of AA, they're not informative, they're transformative. That you're a different person at step 12 than you are at step 1. Now, you can go through it willingly, or you can go through it kicking and screaming, but you're a different person at step 12 than you were at step 1. I didn't get that. And don't get me wrong, there were people talking that. But as Chuck Chamberlain used to say, you'll eventually see what you came here to see, and you'll eventually hear what you came here to hear. But up until that moment in time, I didn't have eyes to see or ears to hear. I was a closed circuit. Nothing was getting in and nothing was getting out. I drove to that man's house, who was my sponsor in name only, and he used to sit on his porch sober. We're just talking about before the meeting, sober a long time. He used to smoke big cigars on his porch. And I told him what I just told you about this car incident. And he sat back on his porch and he says, "How old were you when this happened?" I says, "How old? This happened 20 minutes ago. What do you mean, how old?" Maybe why we're not getting anywhere here. We're getting like lost in translation, you know? I need to get you like hooked on phonics, the Shamrock version, you know? Bring you up to speed, you know? And he sat back and he coined that phrase. Harry Thibault, that was a great friend of AF, coined a phrase for people like me, His Majesty the Baby. I want what I want, and I want it right now. I'm 32 years old, 2.5 years off a drink, trying to run the universe, putting square blocks in round holes. I'm physically, mentally, and spiritually exhausted. He says, "Paul, are you ready to throw in that second surrender?" And against my better judgment, and I'm here to tell you everything that's helped me in AA has been against my better judgment, I got into the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not going to stand up here and tell you the steps of the panacea for every problem, but they brought me to a point in recovery where I could decide what was my work, what's God's work. If you need outside help, let the doctors be the doctors. First things first, do the program. Is it good to do the program and get a full knowledge of your condition? Yeah. But you know when my life caught on fire? You know when my life took on new meaning? It's when I turned around and tried to take another man through the steps. That's when great events came to pass in my life. Bill Wilson, our co-founder. Now, whether I've stood outside that hospital, it's not a hospital today, on his anniversary night, December 11th. I was telling the guys yesterday, I should tell this story. We were standing, the guys are standing outside, and I don't know if you know Central Park West, and it's a building now, there's offices and apartments where Town's Hospital used to be. And it's December 11th, and one of the guys lit a candle. And this is pretty ritzy real estate. And down out of the building, this guy come across the street. They're thinking, oh, we're in trouble now, you know. Bunch of guys standing across the street looking at a building. And this guy says, "I'm up in my apartment there, and I see you guys down here lighting a candle. What's it?" And the guy says, "We're alcoholics. And we're sober. And that used to be a hospital, that building you live in." On December 34th, December 11th, our co-founder got sober. And he had this idea or vision of one alcoholic helping another. And we're standing here because he took that vision and he ran with it. And we're standing here sober today, members of AA. And the guy was like, "Wow, I never knew that. I've been living here for years. I never knew that." And he says, "Do you mind if I go into my apartment and I light a candle and put it in the window?" And he went back in his apartment, turned the lights off, opened the curtains, and put a candle in the window. I tell you, Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob. People say, "Oh, it hadn't have been Bill and Bob and John and Jim." Well, it wasn't John and Jim. It was Bill and Bob. They're the guys that done it. And the old space program, when the rocket was coming back into the Earth, it had to hit the Earth at the right angle. They're called a window of opportunity. If it didn't, it would skim off into space. On Mother's Day weekend, there was a window of opportunity, and Bill Wilson stepped through it, took Dr. Bob with him, and we can trace this moment in time back to that moment in time. And I don't want this thing to ever end, this beautiful thing called AA. Like the iconic song, "I don't want to be here the day the music died." Oh, the music used to play, but it doesn't play anymore. I want this to be around for generations. And Bill Wilson got it. I don't know what happened in that hospital room, but something happened. It was a change that changed everything. It was the rock in the pond, and we are the ripple effect of that rock. And he had this idea, I wonder if I can stay sober trying to help another alcoholic get sober. We didn't have a 12th step, but that's the essence of the 12th step. You know what an 11-step program is for me? It's nothing more than a self-help program. It's a highly evolved self-help program, but at the end of the day, it's a self-help program. That 12th step completes the circuit. Without you, there's no me. If I'm doing AA alone, I ain't doing AA. I'm doing something, but it ain't AA. There's a friend of mine who says it's BB. I said, what's BB? He said, I don't know, but it's not AA. In the last few minutes, I'll talk, about today. I'm the first person in my family, there's alcoholics in my family as far as the eye could see. Like Eugene O'Neill's journey, long day's journey into the night. Alcohol's on one side of the family and mental illness on the other side of the family, But the chain has been broken. I just texted my brother this morning. He's got 20 years back in Ireland. I go to meetings in Ireland regularly. I was just there last week. I can never be amazed enough. They talk about people who normally don't mix. In Northern Ireland, how about people who never mix? Catholics and Protestants. There's one place to sit together. AA. Because we realize together, as it says, we hang together or we die alone. I've been at meetings in Belfast in some of the darkest days of the Troubles, where it's complete warfare out there, and Catholics and Protestants are sitting together in AA. And the Catholics know who the Protestants are, and the Protestants know who the Catholics are, but we realize for that hour and a half, everything's left in the car park where it should be left. And we talk about our common problem, our common solution, and our program of action. And we reach across. And it's a wonderful thing to see in Alcoholics Anonymous. A friend of mine was at a meeting there a while back in Israel, in Tel Aviv, and he said that at the end of the meeting they were standing around, and just by happenstance, or maybe it wasn't happenstance, there was a religious Jewish man standing next to a Muslim woman. And because of their respective religions, they can't have physical contact. And at the end of the meeting, they were joining hands, and it was like a pregnant pause, and she took the big book, and she held one side of the big book, and he held the other side of the big book. And the circle was formed. Guys, for the people, we got a front row seat for the very best that humanity has to offer. Why do I keep coming back to AA? I'll tell you why. It's the people. The people I've met in AA are some of the greatest people I have met in my life. I think of the guys that came before me standing in parking lots after a meeting in frigid weather when I was in early sobriety, helped me put my life back together again. As I say, you can't get around this morning where I came from. Into AA, 30 years of age, didn't even have a high school diploma, for God's sake. 2.5 years sober, all that self-loathing, not good enoughness of my sponsor. Paul, why don't you go to school? School? I'm 32 years of age. I'm going to wait for the yellow bus to pick me up in the morning. He says, Paul, how do we do things around here? We do them one day at a time, one class at a time. And what if I fail? Nothing beats a failure but a try. All I ever ask you to do is try. I started to take classes. Loved it. Went to college, got a degree, another degree, 2 graduate degrees, started teaching. Went from a high school dropout to a high school teacher. When I first started teaching, wanted to teach all the bright kids, got into other plans, got me into special education. I work with many times with these beautiful children who are spiritually pure, who know nothing but the present moment. They do naturally what comes to me unnaturally, live in the here and now. And they think I'm teaching them. I learn so much more from them than I ever learned them. I said there, I'm not going to stand here and tell you, everything's rolling. Like my AA, the up and down. Through life, got married in Alcoholics Anonymous, had a daughter, she's 14 years of age in Alcoholics Anonymous, got divorced in Alcoholics Anonymous. I went through a divorce at 20 years sober. Resentment to here, harbored up to here. Another guy involved. Started to turn the gun on myself. I'm not a good AA'er. How come I didn't see this coming? Thank God for sponsorship. Shared it with the men and women. Talked about it. Put my hand up my home group. Watched that marriage dissolve in public view. Able to get through it. She's happy with that guy today. We live 5 blocks apart. I got remarried in Alcoholics Anonymous. I got a 7-month-old baby daughter at home in Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean, this stuff. I come into Alcoholics Anonymous, I thought there'd be like Groundhog Day, every day is the same. Now, there's days we don't drink no matter what. But these gifts, as I said, life is lived forward and understood backwards. And a lot of this stuff's been rear view mirror. But I see where I am today. And the price of a drink is way up, and I don't mean monetarily. But there's a miracle here for the end on this, the people that are new here. It doesn't matter if you've got 26 years, 50 years, or 1 day. This is God's economy. And in God's economy, everyone is worth and value. And the currency that we use is experience, strength, and hope. How I got sober. How I might help the new person. And to freely give. Bill Wilson said one thing, pass it on. One alcoholic help another. And I look at this chain, like last night, all the different years. And this Bill Wilson had that vision of a chain of drunks, one drunk helping another. And that's what I asked myself this morning. How strong is my link in the chain? Is it as strong that the people went ahead of me? Is it strong that the people come behind me? If someone comes to me, like was read, can I comprehend the word serenity? Can I know peace? Absolutely. Walk this journey with us. We do together what I can't do alone. And I want to end on a few words that sum up how I feel about people in AA. It's close to my heart. It's the Irish blessing. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face, and the rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Thank you so much.